Round one, pick number 12. The Minnesota Vikings are now on the clock. This is one of our new segments. This is our draft preview, offseason preview for the Minnesota Vikings. Now they are in the first round of the NFL draft. They are pick number 12. A lot of options on their plate, but I think there's an even bigger option they need to address beforehand. I'm going to let you take us away with that.
Sure. So the elephant in the room with everything Minnesota Vikings is everything every Vikings fan wants to know about is the deal with Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is going into the last year of his contract with the Minnesota Vikings. His cap hit this year is enormous. We're talking $45 million against the Minnesota Vikings cap. Again, it is a big cap hit for a guy who's above average. I know there's a lot of Vikings fans out there who maybe want to move on from Kirk Cousins, maybe potentially are looking at even drafting a quarterback or trying to get a veteran in. And look, I got to tell you guys right now, you won't be able to cut Kirk Cousins because you're not going to save enough money to make it worthwhile. And no one's going to take a guy who has 1 year left on his deal with that size of cap hit. You're stuck with Kirk Cousins, and guess what? That's not a bad thing. He's a good player, above average quarterback. You can win a lot of games with Kirk Cousins. Talk to the Detroit Lions, talk to the Houston Texans. It can get a lot worse at quarterback.
Absolutely, and the thing that I like to remember is back in the day, there was a guy named Andy Dalton, played for the Bengals, played for the Cowboys as well. They used to say the Dalton line. Andy Dalton was perfectly mediocre. He was like as average as you could possibly be. Now, are you over the Dalton line and that is a quarterback you should keep, or are you below the Dalton line? They should probably look away. Now, Kirk Cousins, while might not be super far above it, he's definitely above the Dalton line. And like you said, you got to be happy with that. You can't ask for much more than that. And the Vikings have a lot of pieces on their team around them. They do have some weaknesses, though. And that might be something we like to address in this first pick of the draft. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. You hit the nail right on the head. Their big weakness is their pass defense, specifically their secondary. The Vikings finished 28th against the pass in 2021. And it gets even worse when the fact that they actually had 51 sacks. It's one of the bigger numbers in the NFL. So they were great at getting after the quarterback and getting down to the ground and still gave up a bunch of passing yards. Backup quarterback for Dallas, Cooper Rush, had over 300 yards against them. Ben Roethlisberger almost had a massive comeback against them. They gave up a lot of passing yards all season. Was a big weakness. And I think this draft, that right away from the get-go at number 12, they got to look at corner. And there's two guys that jump out to us. The first one, if he's available, is Ahmad Gardner from Cincinnati. This guy is 6'3", 200 pounds, and is a great tackler, physical player. We saw him against Alabama, came up, made a lot of nice plays. He's also a good man-on-man guy. We also saw him against top-flight receivers, namely Jameson Williams. Did a number on him against Alabama as well. This guy looks like a big-time player. He's gotten better the more he's played with Cincinnati. I think he'd be a great fit for any team in the NFL, especially the Minnesota Vikings. Guy can come in, can play man, physical, tough, long, can tackle. I think he's just a good pickup and a good fit here at number 12 for Minnesota.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. And like you said, one thing that they got a lot of last year was sacks. And what can help you get more sacks? Better coverage. And if you get a guy like Gardner, like you always say, you can get your guys downfield. If everyone's covered up, you give that powerhouse front seven of your defense the opportunity to get more sacks. So a great corner like Gardner, who could develop into a true lockdown guy with the size and physicality that he has, you feel good about having him out there, and you can send home all of your front seven guys to get you more sacks, because big plays like sacks really can change the tune of the game.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. And look, at the backup, that's like Gardner's off the board here at number 12. And I still think they should look corner. And the guy that I think you and I both agree would be their backup, assuming Gardner's gone, is Andrew Booth from Clemson. This guy's a little smaller than Ahmad Gardner. He's about 6 feet, 200, but this guy has elite level athleticism. Was a 5-star guy coming out of high school, went to Clemson, had a really nice career. Clemson plays a lot of kind of softer zone coverages at corner. They like to be really aggressive with their front seven. Andrew Booth did have a few issues tackling, but he's an amazing athlete. He's really aggressive. tries to make a lot of big plays on the football in the air, has those kind of ball skills. I think he'd be also a good guy to come in and fit right away into that Vikings defense. You got to add players on that back end. You really have to if you're the Minnesota Vikings.
Absolutely, and I agree with this. Obviously, Gardner's your number one, but Booth is a close number two. And being from South Carolina, I got to see Clemson on TV all the time, hear about them, talk around town. Andrew Booth, like you said, good big play guy, real aggressive on the ball, able to get after it, try to make reads on the plays. Like you said, he does have some flaws. Obviously, that's why he's not our number one pick for the Vikings here. But he is by no means a bad number two pick. If you do get Booth, he might not be your lockdown guy, but he could be a good Trayvon Diggs type of guy. The guy that he might get burned every once in a while, but he makes enough big plays on the ball to make an impact on your defense. And I think that's something that is pretty valuable, as the Dallas Cowboys has found out.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, there is one caveat we'll throw in there for the Vikings sitting there at number 12. And instead of drafting a corner, they need to listen to phone calls from teams. We're looking at Pittsburgh Steelers, the New Orleans Saints, maybe even the Detroit Lions, who have a pick very into the first round, potentially trading up to number 12 to get a quarterback. Right? Both those teams, that's early in that point in the draft. There may be a run on quarterbacks. There may not be. We'll have to see how it shakes out with Kenny Pickett, Matt Corral, Malik Willis, or those guys. I think they should listen to those phone calls. If Pittsburgh says, hey, we want to swap 20 to 11 and we'll give you next year's first, I think you do that in a heartbeat if you're Minnesota. Because guess what? You may still have an Andrew Booth available at 20. And even if you don't, you have guys like Kaiir Elam from Florida, Trent McDuffie from Washington that would be available around that point in the draft. Good quality corners that can help you right away, plus next year's first-round draft pick. That's a good move, I think, if you're in Minnesota. Keep your ears open for those trade back opportunities for teams looking up to get a quarterback.
Absolutely, and there's enough big guys in the front end of this draft. There might be a couple key, I'm expecting at least one to get taken in the first 10, but there might be a few key quarterbacks left on the board around pick number 12, and that's something that the Vikings, like you said, they really need to keep their ears open. Hear the trade offers. If you can get something favorable, like you said, the swap picks this year, first round next year, that's something that could be huge for you. And draft capital is always so valuable, especially those first round picks. So I think, like you said, we got to hear all the options, and don't be afraid to trade back out later into the first round if you can gain something like a first round pick next year. Because there are the possibility that there's a couple of quarterbacks laying around, and these people are going to want to jump up for it. So I think that's an opportunity that you can't not capitalize on.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to sum it all up, Minnesota Vikings, you've got Kirk Cousins. You're not going to be able to get off of him this year. He's above the Dalton line, like you said. He's above average. He's good enough to win you games, especially in that division. You're stuck with him. Be happy with Kirk Cousins. Ahmad Gardner is your preferred option at number 12. If he gets picked up early, hey, Andrew Booth is not a bad number 2. And also keep your ears open for trade opportunities for guys looking to move up in the first round and pick a quarterback.